Those are things that personified, those were things that personified that era. Things that was the target audience back then is not the same as today. Today is strictly for the kids, strictly for young children. WWE used to be must-see television. It used to be the highlight of my Monday, used to be the highlight of my Thursday, and then Friday, sometimes Sunday. We could order a pay-per-view. It just used to be the mecca of my entertainment. What has happened? Part of it is I grew up, but I still watch occasionally. It's just boring. I don't know. What else do we say? It's just boring. It's just not good. It's all disorganized. Sure, they make more money now than they've ever made at any time in the past, but there's nothing captivating about it. There's nothing to look forward to. Not must-see television. I do find myself checking in and watching, some of the pay-per-views. There are some pay-per-views I can do without. But to me, it's just crazy to think that there was once a time where I would do homework, behave in school. Not that I was a bad student or anything, but I would make sure everything in school was good and taken care of because I did not want to miss wrestling. You got this whole thing with Vince McMahon, retired as the CEO, still head of creative. So the more things change, the more they stay the same, I guess. You got Stephanie in charge now, Nick Khan. This is just a shoot video. So I don't really know. I don't know, man. I've never really covered wrestling on this channel, but wrestling was a big part of my childhood. It's something I check in on occasionally. Like now I just get all my information through Twitter and podcasts. I just look to see what happens, see if it's worth going back to watch a full segment because there's nothing about it that just catches the eye. And, maybe that's more of, it's not for people like me anymore. It's not for me anymore. I know about AEW and all of that, but I just think wrestling in general is just not for me. Because I know AEW is good, and Wednesdays I'm usually booked anyway, but I just don't have the desire to go and check out what happened. I just don't have that desire. I don't necessarily care that I don't have it, but it's just not there anymore. Yeah, of course we got this whole Vince McMahon thing. He finally he retired. We know what was it? He was suspended last June, when the story broke about I don't know what you call it, sexual misconduct. He was having an affair. I mean, can we really call it an affair? I mean, we know what this guy's been about for so many years now. We know that he's always had affairs on Linda McMahon. I mean, are they even married still? That's the question. Are they even married? And it doesn't even matter. Paid money to $3 million settlement given by McMahon to a former WWE paralegal. I think he also paid money to a former wrestler, diva, they called him back then. Just a lot that was going on back then that was in the dark. A lot of things that's going to come to the light. We know about this guy, Nick Khan, who has, he's really looking like he's just shaping and restructuring the company to eventually be sold. I believe they will eventually sell the company in the near future, somewhere between the next 2 or 3 years. I think WWE is sold for sure. But yeah, Nick Khan, that's what he's done. I mean, we've heard about names. We've seen the names that has been released over the past, ever since the pandemic. After WrestleMania in 2020, Braun Strowman, a big guy, fits right in with WWE. Land of the Giants, that guy was released. I don't know if Bray Wyatt is officially released, but we haven't seen him in well over a year and a half. A lot of guys been cut, looking like the company is just being cleaned up. I don't think it'll be something that I'll ever go back to because, like I said, I get fed up with WWE, but I still find myself just checking to see what happened on Twitter to see if there's or YouTube to see if there's something worth going to go watch. But I just prefer to watch the clip. Or I'll just, just see what happened on the internet. Listen to a podcast. I get information through podcasts. AEW, I've seen some of it, really good, but I still have no desire there. So maybe I've just grown out of it. And if you still watch it, that's fine. I'm not saying grow up or anything. I'm saying maybe it's just not for me anymore. But to look at, I started watching back in 99, late 99, 2000. And back then, of course, I sound like the old guy now. That was must-see television. WWE, I never watched baseball. Still don't watch much baseball. But I never watched football or basketball growing up during those times. It was always wrestling. That was the closest to a sport I was watching. I still go back and watch any show. Of course, everything wasn't good, but I still find myself going back to watch. I'm still able to go back and watch from the 2000, which was the best year, in my opinion, that I've seen. I know that other people from other eras have the golden era in the 80s with Hulk Hogan and things like that. But that year 2000, from top to bottom, was just a great year. The only pay-per-views I can really think of that weren't really that good, but was still tolerable. You had King of the Ring. WrestleMania, looking back, just wasn't a good show. Too overbooked, WrestleMania 2000. And again, I'm just all over the place with this because I never really talk about wrestling on this channel, but it is something that was a huge part of my childhood, so I'm talking about it. But Survivor Series was cool, but it wasn't really one of the strongest. But there really wasn't any bad pay-per-views that year. Fully Loaded was probably the best. SummerSlam 2000 was the first pay-per-view we got to order, and that one was a great show. You had that Armageddon was basically a one-match show with that 6-man Hell in a Cell match. But looking back on like what it was and to what it is now, to see that, it's like, man, they really making more money now than they've ever made, but the product is all-time low, in my opinion. I know, like I said, it's probably just not for me anymore. I saw the report about them switching back to TV 14, but that's not gonna make a difference. That will not make the slightest difference. It could potentially still be good because we've seen storylines like the beginning of the Bloodline stuff with Roman and Jey Uso. That was good stuff. That was great storytelling. That was a good storyline. They still got the Bloodline, but now it's just whatever. So we know that they still have the potential, but they only seem to focus their attention on just one story at a time, and they rush everything else. Someone betrayed, I think it was during the pandemic year, 2020, right? You had, what's the name of that group? With Bobby Lashley, MVP and them, the Hurt Business. You had Cedric Alexander turn his back on, was it Mustafa Ali? Turned on them. And in the same show, he was given an explanation of why. Well, usually those are cliffhangers and things like that for the week after, but everything is rushed. No one has the patience to wait to see how a story unfolds. That's more to do with the fans as well. But you can tell they just have no direction into where they want to go with creative. They start and stop something the exact same show. They start something and finish it on the exact same show. And then they have stuff like Roman and Jey that was really good. So this TV 14 will not make a difference. It will not make the slightest difference. Back then, is one of the reasons that Vince McMahon is in the hot water he's in now, along with other executives like John Laurinaitis, who's out now, and Triple H has been demoted back to head of talent relations, which is not a desirable job to have. But back then, they were doing things in TV 14 stuff that, 8-year-old me, 9-year-old me would look at and, entertaining. At the end of the day, it's still acting, no matter what. I know they can't do a lot of that stuff, but it is kind of a double standard because they're still acting. It's still entertainment. And it's stuff that I wouldn't really care to see. But this is just one example. You having Trish Stratus bark like a dog. The women are, not taking it serious. They're just used for bra and panties matches and things like that. Those are things that personified, those were things that personified that era. Things that was the target audience back then is not the same as today. Today is strictly for the kids, strictly for young children. They can't do a lot of that stuff that they did back then. Everything wasn't great. I know a lot of people hate when people talk about the Attitude Era because they are thinking that we're saying that everything was gold and everything was great, when no, everything wasn't great. But it's undeniable that was must-see television back then. So they go to TV 14. What are they going to do? Drop some cuss words? They already do that. The B word, the S word. They just want to drop some cuss words. And stuff that they're already doing. Like, what can they do really differently to make the product? The only thing they can do is give us mid-card matches and storylines that are as captivating as the main event. In 2005, during the Ruthless Aggression, you had the Eddie Guerrero thing and the Rey Mysterio. That was not headlining pay-per-views, but they were great storylines and great matches. That all started with Eddie and Rey. I think, if my memory serves me correctly, they were facing up. They were tag champions, and they went one-on-one in I think was it a qualifying match or something? I'm not sure, but I know they went one-on-one before WrestleMania 21, and then Eddie couldn't beat Rey, and he felt like he had something to prove, so they kicked off the show at WrestleMania 21, had an excellent match. Rey won again. And then it started to go to this Eddie Guerrero heel turn. And Eddie just couldn't beat Rey, and he eventually turned on him, beat him down. And that was not, like I said, that was not a main event storyline. But it was something else to focus on and look at while we anticipate the main event with John Cena, JBL, or Batista, JBL, and things like that. But now, I remember it was 2015 or something like that? You had it was something happened where Stephanie McMahon, it was during the Authority, where Stephanie came out and she tried to convince John Cena to turn to the dark side, the heel side. And Triple H came out and said, "See, Steph, I told you he wouldn't go for it." And it seems like they were working an angle at work to where it looked like John Cena was going to go heel. But then it just stopped out of nowhere. So they do these start and stops. And they do these things where they start a storyline and finish it the same show. Just like I'm just talking in circles right now. This whole thing with Vince, it's crazy. He took over this company back in like the early 80s or something like that. And there's no denying that he's the biggest wrestling promoter ever in the history of wrestling. You can never tell the story of wrestling without mentioning the name Vince McMahon. The Mr. McMahon character, definitely the greatest heel character in my opinion because of what it did to elevate Austin. Feuded with everybody. Not sad to see him go. Were at his welcome a long time ago. So not sad to see him go, but it's to see where we started to where I started to where we are now. It's something, man. But I don't know. I think that's all I got to talk about. There's plenty more to talk about on this subject, I'm sure. If other things develop, I'm sure I'll be speaking on it. But wow. Anyway, appreciate y'all for hearing me out. Be sure to like, share, comment, subscribe. Tell me what you guys think about the situation with Vince McMahon, just wrestling in general, or were any of you ever wrestling fans or watching this video? And are you still wrestling fans? What do you think about the product now? Just let me know what y'all think, whatever it is y'all thinking, and I appreciate y'all, and I'll see y'all next time.
When people see this, they're going to say, well, he really wasn't a nice guy. He may have been a tyrant. Well, that's because you never won anything. I wanted to win, but I wanted them to win and be a part of that as well. Look, I'm only doing this because it is who I am. That's the way I played the game. That was my mentality. And if you don't want to play that way,